From deep in the heart of Central Texas, it's the Best of the Outdoors podcast. Brought to you by Texas Fish and Game Magazine, the voice of the Texas outdoor nation. I'm your humble host, Dustin Von Warnke, the Outdoor Success Guy, back with another podcast for you guys. Man, am I excited and fired up to be in front of this microphone again and be able to share the Texas outdoor nation lifestyle with you. And I'm really excited about this particular episode because we are post general season right now and entering muzzleloader season, which it started right after general season ended. And general season went a little bit later this year in January, and that's kind of cool. But basically, we're in muzzleloader season right now, and this is just to give you guys an idea of what muzzleloaders are about, some limitations and some benefits to using a muzzleloader and those kind of things, some different kinds of muzzleloaders, those kind of things. And I've got my buddy Trever Bryan on this podcast, kind of helping us reel in some information of about muzzleloader season and about muzzleloaders. And he hunts public land. Right when this podcast is going to release, he'll be on a hunt in the Davy Crockett National Forest, I believe. And man, just a hardcore public land hunter, which you don't find a ton of that are doing media in Texas, especially my part of the world. So anyway, I just had to have him on because he is not really a humongous expert at muzzleloaders, but he has got the passion for hunting public land and is just a wealth of knowledge on getting started with muzzleloaders and some of his experiences and that kind of stuff. So anyway, if you've not done so already, please check out our blog at fishgame.com. That's fishgame.com. There's all kinds of different information on there about hunting and fishing and outdoors and wildlife and tactical stuff and all kinds of different stuff like that. There's a lot of information to help you be a better outdoorsman and learn about God's great creation in the outdoors. And that's the one thing I really try to make this podcast about. One reason why I have Chester Moore on all the time, because him and I are both Christian guys, and we just really believe that it's just a magnitude of possibilities out there. Of what's out there, the wildlife beyond the pavement, the wildlife that we see and that we don't see, and some different things to make you think. So hopefully this is, I hope that this has made you think a little bit more about the hunting and fishing lifestyle, and this podcast has been a benefit to you, because that's the whole purpose of doing this show every couple of weeks, is basically to give you something you may not be getting everywhere else on other outdoor podcasts. I know there's a lot of them out there. I know a lot of you guys that listen to this show will listen to a lot of them, but I just want to thank you personally from the bottom of my heart to each and every one of you guys out there listening. Thank you so much. It means the world to me that you listen. And please tell a friend about the show. Please give us a 5-star rating on iTunes or any other place you find this podcast, including YouTube, or give us a like on there, or Spotify, or Stitcher, or iHeartRadio, or any of those places, Spotify, those kind of places that we're found. Find us on all those different streaming channels and music and video channels, and we'd love to just spread the outdoor nation to the world, and especially to Texas and beyond. And we just try to make this show about everything about the outdoors that's in Texas and beyond. Even though this is a Texas-based show, I just really encourage the listeners to check out everything that's outside of the state as well as what's in the state. We just have such a magnitude of different things here in the state that are great to check out for wildlife. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, reading, and listening. Check out our interview with Mr. Trever Bryan from the Cast Blast Grill Chill podcast, and here we go. Join me on the phone, Mr. Trever Bryan. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing great. How are you, Dustin?
Doing wonderful, man. Better than I deserve. It is always a blast to have you on the podcast again, because, you've got a podcast. I've been on your podcast. You've been on our podcast with the Cast Blast Grill Chill guys, and then I'm having you back on this podcast. So it's kind of
comes full circle, right?
Comes full circle. That's right. So, but no, it's just an honor to have you back on, and like I say, regular Texas outdoorsman, and just talk about the Texas outdoor nation a lot. And how has the season been for you so far, Trever?
It's been significantly more wet than I would have liked. Starting off on the opener of bow season, the area that I hunt, primarily public land,
sure.
And the area that I hunt got flooded the first day. I got a morning hunt in that was dry, and we have been trying to catch up and drain some water off, and every time we almost get there, it floods again.
Really?
It's a low area. It's a low area, but we're just trying to get some get to be able to walk and hunt the entire area again would be nice.
Sure. No, I understand that completely. And it's been wetter like this week of January that you and I recorded this podcast. I mean, there was something like 100. Well, you and I both live in the Austin area pretty much. There's like 100 low water crossings closed.
Yeah, it's been a crazy season for me, just due to the water mostly, but I did find some success in October. Shot a little freak buck, he was a 2x4, 2 on one side, 4 on the other, but he was broke off on his G1.
Uh-huh.
So made him a legal buck to my antler restriction county I hunt in.
Sure.
Yeah, so got some meat in the freezer. Did a Euro mount on him. He's hanging on the wall, so proud of that one. And,
already? That's great.
Yeah. So
way to get it done, man.
Yeah, looking forward to the later season here, getting some more hunting in, hopefully with some drier weather.
That's why I wanted to have you on is late season muzzleloader season and just late season whitetail for antlers and spikes and that kind of stuff that we're kind of encountering right now. And the Houston boat shows this month, SHOT shows this month. I mean, there's just a lot going on, but I love to talk to guys about who are enjoying the outdoors, more than me in some cases because I've got all these shows. But, like for instance, I was just at Bass Pro this afternoon rather, and then it kind of bled into this evening. Take my son to go get a deer feeder to go set up for some hogs. I'm setting up a hog blind on a buddy's property, and and then he realizes the arcade is at Uncle Buck's restaurant, the bowling lanes, and we spent like an hour there. I'm like, well, sometimes it's fun to just let the kids be kids. He's 9, and I know I'm trying to get him all into the hunting and fishing stuff, but I mean, he's just like, man, can we go hang out here? I'm like, yeah, I guess so. So tickets and prizes and all that other stuff later. Here I am again. So
hey, there's no better place to let kids be kids than something attached to a Bass Pro Shop.
That's right. There's nothing wrong with that, right?
That's right, man.
So that I got a little bucket feeder today. It was on sale. Last one that was on sale, and some corn and some pig attractant, and I'm gonna see what happens later this year. And after deer season's over with, I'm gonna try to I've ordered me a game camera, like what do you call it? A cellular game camera.
Oh, nice.
Coming directly from China. And it is 4G, and so it'll work with the cellular service that I have through AT&T. And I'm excited, dude. I'm just pumped about putting that up, even post, kind of late season, postseason,
Oh yeah, that's a good time to scout it out, man.
Sure.
Especially if the Bucks are still holding, to see who made it through the season,
right,
and what they're looking like, what kind of condition they're in. Hopefully not too stressed out, not looking too bad, and yeah, hopefully you got a lot of nice deer left.
Yeah, we'll see. I just love the idea of the technology sending something to your cell phone. I've never done that before. I've always driven over there, picked up the SIM card, brought our SD card, brought it back home, all that stuff. It's kind of cool what the technology is today with what we're dealing with, especially with cellular trail cameras.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely incredible. I would have never imagined that we'd be at the point that we're at.
No, it's just amazing. I mean, the convenience that we have in the field now. And I never use that as a crutch, but I use that to my advantage, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So,
yeah, hey, and you save some gas money not going to running trail cameras.
Right.
That's a bonus.
And the wear and tear on your vehicle and everything else, it pays for itself, pretty quick. So the extra expense. But anyway, so let's talk about muzzleloaders. There's several different types, several different companies that make muzzleloaders. There's a few different types of muzzleloaders. Why does Trever hunt with muzzleloaders?
Mostly because it gives me, let's say, a fallback or like a safety net at the end of the season.
Right.
If the whole season I haven't had much luck, it's the end of season now. Here where I'm at in Texas, it's no late season aside from muzzleloaders. West of 35 here in the Austin area, there's some late season spike doe stuff.
Right.
I mainly hunt on the east side, so it's usually over, around the 6th of January. This year's the 6th of January.
Right.
But that gives me my safety net and my extra 2 weeks, or a little bit more in some cases. I do hunt a piece of public not too terribly far from Austin that actually their muzzleloader season runs until February the 3rd.
Oh wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so it's going to be I get to deer hunt until February the 3rd.
That's
so
good.
I mean, that is a good bonus for muzzleloaders.
Well, and then for guys that, I work around processing and taxidermy and stuff all the time as well, and businesses that do hunting ranches year round, you've got MLD hunters, that can hunt through the end of February. For high fence MLD property. I forget what MLD stands for, management land permit, I think, or management land, I forget what it is, but anyway, it's what it is. So that's another opportunity for people that want to get out on day hunts and stuff like that.
Yeah, and for those guys that see people advertising maybe on some online groups that they're like, how are they advertising deer hunts after the season's over or whatever?
That's
it's usually an MLD tag like Dustin's talking about.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm glad we educated people on that because, I would even get stuff before MLD hunting was really big. I'd get stuff from guys when I would, publish axis hunts and stuff that I sell online. Hey, deer season's over, dude. I'm just like, well, dude, axis. I mean, this is the time of year that we start exotic hunting, and we call that, what I mean to say, what I was trying to be more dramatic about that was what we say as exotic season starts in January. And, there is no season for exotics. There is no bag limit, but that's kind of the thing when the freezer's full, or if it's not, there's another opportunity for you with Axis, Fallow, Psycha. I've done, a whole podcast on exotics, and I plan to do more in the future. There's so much opportunity out there if you, have a few bucks that you want to spend on a fully guided or semi-guided exotic hunt.
Yeah, there's a ton of opportunity, and for me, right after all this late season stuff, it goes mainly to hogs, and the opportunity is there for exotics like you're talking about.
Sure.
So we definitely live in a place with a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, a lot of opportunity. That's my point, is people listening outside of Texas. I know there's some of you guys out there. So, and I try to make this show for everybody. So I try to, especially with our muzzleloader season being what it is, what are the different, if you want to get into this is fine, Trevor, but what are the different types of muzzleloaders that there are? I know of a few of them on the top of my head.
So I'm not a huge muzzleloader guy, but if you want, I can just give you a quick rundown on what I have.
Right. Well, you've got an inline, I'm sure, right? You've got an inline muzzleloader, right?
Yeah, I have an inline muzzleloader. So I'm running the CVA Wolf. It's the 50 caliber.
Okay.
I have a Nikon inline XR. It's a 9x40 scope on it. Oh, so nice. Nikon, it's there. I think the reticle is like 300 BD or whatever that goes to. So it's
you
a
mean a 3 to 9 by 40, right? Is that what you mean to say?
Yeah, so 3 to 9.
You said 9 by 40, so I just want to make sure.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Yeah, so by 40, and then so that's more of a muzzleloader style.
Right,
scope.
It's a modern muzzleloader, in other words.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and then so I'm running the 50 caliber, the power belt style projectiles. Mm-hmm. So it's not a sabot. It's not a round ball. It's more of what you would imagine a regular bullet looks like.
Okay.
Projectile looks like in a bullet, and then it has a urethane like ring around the bottom of it, and then a urethane tip on the top.
I see. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and other than that, I'm running 100 grains of powder. I do the pellets instead of loose powder.
Sure. And that's an option you have these days, which you didn't have years ago.
Yeah, which is, couldn't be more convenient. And I'm running 250 grain. 777 is the brand that I use of the powder. And one thing on powder, especially here in Texas, we don't have a super prevalent muzzleloader community, if you would.
Right.
So the sales of the powder, they go quickly. They're not stocked
I see.
A lot of the time. So it's hard to find powder. And if you wanted to ship it in, there's a big hazard cost that gets taxed on to the end of your bill. So if you find it and you're into muzzleloaders, just trying to get started, if you find a place with a couple boxes, go ahead and pick it up if you can store it in a dry environment.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Because it's just like shipping smokeless gunpowder in a way, correct? Because there's a hazmat fee on that stuff, is there not?
Yeah, exactly the same deal.
If you're getting reloading components is what I mean, and that kind of stuff in, if you're rolling your own, as they say, and reloading your own ammunition, it's the same kind of fee that you've got to pay for that, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
And I paid that fee before, so I know it's not cheap. But yeah, so what would be your suggestion then, Trevor? Would you say get people to order it online early, or just go to a retail store that carries it early, or what do you do?
I started out by just calling my local gun shop that I like to go to, small business type place. and just ask them if they have it, and if they don't, who they would refer you to.
Sure.
I checked a lot of box stores after my local gun shop didn't have it. The online said that they did carry it, and then I was going around calling people trying to get them to check shelves for me. Finally found one out towards you, Dustin, east of Austin or west of Austin.
Yeah.
And so I went and picked that up out there. They had 2 boxes left. I grabbed both of them up, and so luckily I've been okay for a while. I haven't
buy
been
them
in a
cheap
power
and stack
crisis.
them deep, baby. Right?
That's right. That's right.
Hoard it, if you have to. Yeah, no, I get that, and that's completely fine. I think it's going to be something that picks up more because there is more of a challenge with muzzleloaders. But the way that muzzleloaders work today is almost like a darn rifle, or like a centerfire rifle in a lot of ways. There's so many performance improvements that have happened over the last, I guess, 20, 30 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a super big fan of how far they've actually come. You mentioned that mine's an inline style
Yes.
muzzleloader, and the ease of that is, and the safety aspects of an inline muzzleloader. So it's basically a break action, and so the breech on the back unscrews, so you have full access to the back of it. There's a bunch of safety components that it's almost dummy proof.
Right.
So
No, that's
I would
good.
highly recommend that for sure.
No, it's good. Now, CVA is one brand. Traditions. I mean, there's a bunch of different Night. There's a bunch of different rifle companies that make muzzleloaders, or muzzleloader only companies that specialize in muzzleloaders, I should say. And there's just a lot of innovations that have been made in that. And I say it's just about every show. We're in the golden age of this stuff, man. I mean, it continues to get better, and I don't even see how it can improve anymore. You know what I'm saying, Trevor?
No, absolutely. Another point that I think you were almost getting at there was how the challenge that can come with it.
Yes, I was getting to that. Yes, thank you for coming back to that, Trevor.
Yeah. So yeah, some of the challenges that I've run into is just overall distance that you can
Yes.
shoot, for one. How often you have to clean a muzzleloader is another downside. It is considered
it's a chore, right? It's a chore.
Oh,
to clean
absolutely.
Okay,
I mean,
so I just want to make sure
they
clear
have,
that up.
yeah, they have like I forget what they call it exactly, but it's a parts cleaner basically, and you drop your parts that are covered in black powder down into this basket and submerge it in a detergent.
Right.
And so it breaks all of it free. I mean, everything is just so dirty, and you have to keep it super clean.
Right.
Or you're going to have issues in the field.
Right. No, it's for it to work all right. No, that makes sense. But I mean, you're talking of a shot that's underneath 200 yards in most cases, correct? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, I would say for me, my max is 100.
Okay.
I feel like I can get within 100 yards of pretty much anything if my wind's right and everything's kind of working in my favor. I can get within 100. I can sneak in that far if I'm on the ground, or I can be patient and I can pass up that shot if it's over 100.
Sure.
That's just my personal distance that I've set for myself, because that's what I've shot at with the muzzleloader and what I'm comfortable with.
And I know I've talked about air guns a lot in this podcast, but this is another thing that's very similar to muzzleloader hunting is air gun hunting, because you have the same kind of limitations with a heavier bullet moving of a slower projectile propellant, I guess, if you will. It's the same kind of task that you're faced with is making that shot, underneath 100 yards, like what Texas Parks and Wildlife recommends for air guns. But it's the same kind of, philosophy behind it. Is the challenge is in, lobbing something that's heavier and bulkier downrange. It's something that you could shoot with a 223 or centerfire rifle. But the challenge is making that shot count, and you've just got one of those shots. You can't really quickly reload a muzzleloader either, correct?
Yeah, they have what they call a speed reloader,
Right.
and it's basically a handy holder for all the parts and pieces that you need to reload. But I mean, even having them all readily available right there, even on a bench at a shooting range, there's only so fast you can go.
Sure, yeah, exactly. No, I get that for sure. And so, what is your game plan for the gear that you're using, Trevor, for muzzleloader? Because you and I talked about air guns on the podcast you and I did, the Hunt Fish Repeat podcast. And do you have kind of do you buy your bullets in bulk and stockpile them, or what is your whole process with the gear that you put together? You've already told me about the powder.
So the powder is pretty much the only thing I need to buy in bulk. Everything else is readily available, and even the projectiles you can buy off of like Amazon, because there's no hazard to them. So I mean, you can go to a box store, you can purchase them there, or you can get them off of Amazon, which really surprised me when I first got into this. But really, there's no hazard to it. It's just a piece of metal, and comes right to your door. So pretty easy buying that. As far as the rest of my gear, we just touched on that speed reloader thing.
Mm-hmm.
I really do like carrying that. It's
Sure.
basically a belt pouch that you just wear on yourself, and it's got little spots for each one of your primers.
Nice.
A couple pieces of powder in there, a couple pellets,
Right.
and a couple extra bullets, and I just walk around with it. And that's an easy thing when I get back to the truck. When I go to unload, I put the primer back in. I usually unscrew the breech plug off the back. I take my powder out, and then I put it right back in there. There's not a whole big array of boxes and pieces that I'm all trying to put back in different things. So
No,
that makes my
sense.
life a lot easier.
That makes sense. And one of the things also that I think is interesting is it's a lot safer than it used to be, correct?
I would say so. Especially with no loose powder, I
Right.
feel like it's a lot safer, and the inline makes it even safer because you have the ability to almost instantly just break that breech open and unscrew the plug. And so once you break open that action and your gun folds over, your primer's sitting right there in the back of in the back of the breech plug. So you can just pull that out. You can put your action back together, walk around with your gun, and that gun's not going to fire.
It's there's no inertia behind it. There's no inertia causing agent behind it. In other words, okay.
Yeah. I mean, even if you drop the hammer on that, most likely there's not going to be a spark there enough to ignite your powder. So,
Right.
I mean, even if you did have some freak spark happen, I guess it could, but I'd say it's unlikely.
And you've got your guys. There's the flint, style. There's
Flintlock,
flintlock,
yeah.
which is the old school, and then percussion cap. Is that the other kind, right?
I believe so, and so those are using like a patch and round ball.
Right, right.
So your typical, Civil War style musket
Mm-hmm.
is what most people would kind of identify that with.
Which some guys like to hunt that way with the round ball and all that.
Oh, absolutely, and I guess that gun's probably almost 4 feet long.
Yeah, it's humongous. It's like my Mosin Nagant, my World War II
Yeah.
rifle. It's put
Yeah.
a bayonet on the top of that thing is taller than you are, Trevor.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And those guys are usually the guys you see walking around the woods in all buckskin and I'm just kidding.
Yes, no, for real. That's what that's the typical guy that shoots that kind of stuff. But there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that things have come a long way from the perimeter muzzleloader. That we have something that almost mirrors in a lot of ways up to about 200 yards. A modern day. Centerfire rifle. And I mean, that's the neat thing about it is that you, like you were saying earlier, you extend your season, you have a new weapon that you can improve your skill on, and there's just a lot of advantages to doing it.
Yeah, and if you're not in Texas and you're in one of the states, I don't remember them off the top of my head, but so muzzleloader, like we're touching on here, is considered a primitive rifle. That actually opens up a lot of stuff. Where in primitive seasons it would be archery and muzzleloader in the late season.
I know some states do that. That's right.
Yeah, I think that's more of a Western thing. I could be wrong, but I think some states out west and maybe even on the east side, East
Sure.
Coast. But yeah, so that's a great benefit. It doesn't really help us here in Texas because we have a very separated group of seasons. But yeah, as far as my season continuing from this point on, so we're in the first week of January, not this weekend, but the next, I'll be taking my fiance to the National Forest for the first weekend of muzzleloader season.
Which one? Which national forest?
Davy Crockett.
Okay, there's Davy Crockett and there's Sam Houston. Am I saying that right?
Yep, Sam Houston. Those are the two
Those
biggest.
are the two biggest national
ones.
forests.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure because I'm not a pro at public land, and everybody that's listening to the show knows that. But I think what you and Jeremy and the other guys that hunt public land do is admirable. I mean, the fact that you guys will hike it in there, will deal with other hunters, and being on top of each other sometimes, that kind of stuff. I mean, you guys have a soul for the wilderness. I really honor that about y'all.
It's more of an addiction. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
no, it really is an addiction. And I just tallied up over the 2018 year, just kind of hunting and fishing days I've spent in the field. And I got to 85 days last year.
Wow, that's
So
great.
it's about the quarter of the year I spent in the
Yeah.
woods, either hunting or fishing. And man, I'm proud of that number, and I hope it goes up a little bit next year. I've maintained a good balance so far, and I hope I can continue to do more of that because I absolutely love it.
No, that's great. I mean, that's what they say. It's not a passion; it's an addiction, or it's not a liking; it's a passion. I mean, that's the way a lot of us look at hunting and fishing together. Um, it's just in our blood, It's just it's who we are, And I think that's so vitally important. So, anyway, continue about what you were saying about the national forest.
Oh yeah, so taking my fiance out, we just got her hunter's education done. So I'm glad about that. We're gonna get her license here, and in the national forest, you only need your license. It's not a Type 2 license, which would be the annual hunting permit,
Which is
uh,
statewide, right?
which is statewide. That's run by Texas Parks and Wildlife, and that's an extra $48, I
Yeah,
believe,
I
when you
bought
buy
mine
your
this year.
license.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that opens up a lot of stuff. But for the national forest, because it's a national thing, it all you need is your hunting license, your hunter's education. If you're born pre, I think it's 76
Yeah, I think so.
or
I was
post
79, so yeah,
76,
post
excuse me.
76. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you just go out there and have yourself a good time. They do have a an archery season. It's an either sex, so it's a legal buck with antler restrictions, or it's a doe in archery season. General season goes back to buck only with antler restrictions, and then the late season, which we're about to do, is once you get into muzzleloader season, is muzzleloader only, of course, and it opens up either sex again.
I see.
So there's a lot more opportunity there. We're looking to fill the freezer a little bit more. We could go through about just her and I over the course of a year. I think we can go through about a doe a quarter.
Yep.
So that'd be 4 does a year. We got one buck in the freezer now, a little bit bigger than the doe, but man, I'm looking to put some more meat in there. I got some ducks and some other stuff going on in there, but I definitely need some more subsistence meat.
It just feels good to put meat in the freezer. I don't care who you are, man. I
Oh,
mean,
absolutely.
whether it's duck or dove or fish or big game animals. I mean, there's just something about it that just stocking your freezer with something you got out there and caught or killed is just a great feeling. I don't think anything can
Man,
compare to that.
it really is that sense of accomplishment when you're successful and you get to come home and whatever it is, if it's a doe, if it's a spike, if it's a great big ginormous buck, just being proud of that's what's really important, I think.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's good. And so your basic approach is spot and stalk in the national forest, or is it set up a blind and wait? I know you're not allowed to do a lot of things in the national forest, like hunt at night, and oh yeah, of course you can't hunt deer at night anyway, a whitetail. But as far as what you can do in and out of there, what's your approach?
So my main approach when I go in there is to hang a tree stand. So it'd be a hang-on stand with climbing sticks,
Right.
not a climber or anything like that. I've done that in the past. It's more of a hassle to me than anything, but I prefer the hang-on stand. Get way up in a big old pine tree or big old oak tree, and just glass and glass and glass. So lots of binoculars. I try and find the most open area that I can, just so I can cover as much ground as I can. Um, and then just wait on them. I'm targeting more of some late season food sources, as in if there's any acorns that we're still holding. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. We've had a lot of storms, a lot
Right.
of high winds, so I think most of the acorns have probably fallen, but still a lot of browse, a lot of budded plants and stuff like that they can browse on. That's a great late season food source for hunting a place where you're not feeding. If I was hunting private land with a feeder, I'd definitely be hitting a corn or a high carb food plot with like brassicas or soybeans
Right.
or something like that. Just they need those carbohydrates for sure. And it's been cold off and on here, so I think they'll definitely be wanting some good healthy carbohydrate food.
Well, the two things that I recommended in my video I did for Texas Fishing Games digital issue, January issue, was and I'm a product guy when it comes to this stuff. Products that I use, I like to share with our listeners and our viewers and our readers. And I use Big and J BB squared for as a food, as kind of an attractant to get them in with the aroma and stuff that Big and J has. And then for a mineral site, if you want to make a late season mineral site, Dig a Hole is a product made by Vapor Trail Scents. And it's like the most concentrated mineral source they say that's out there. That is really aromatic, and the deer crave that and want to get on that. But I mean, something that's, and I know in the national forest, that's, if you were to bring anything like that in, that's considered baiting, and you can't do that. Is that correct, or am I wrong?
Yeah, that is correct. So no baiting in the national forest or the majority of the public lands,
okay.
At least here in Central Texas, and as far as I can remember, most of Texas. As far as deer goes,
right.
Hogs, whole different story.
Yeah.
Every place is different on baiting hogs. It just depends.
I'm with you. I was just wondering, what the story is. But if you do have private land, or if you can, get away with this, I mean, Big and J and Vapor Trail Scents are the two products that I personally use this time of year. To bring them in with the sense of smell, but also what you're saying, Trevor, is to bring them in with the sense of through the stomach, with a sense of hunger, a sense of wanting to eat some browse, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If you can find that. And this year, I've only been in this spot one time previously in December. So last month I was there. The other spot that I usually hunt was completely flooded out. It was a lake over there. I tried to escape it here in Central Texas. Went to East Texas, and it was just as bad. My usual spot was a lake.
That's
so we
sad,
backed out.
Man.
Yeah, it really, man.
Rained everywhere, man. It just rained the whole state was just wet, Yeah,
it seemed like we were just underwater, needed Noah's Ark to get anywhere. But, man, so I found a new spot where they had done a prescribed burn 2 years ago.
Okay.
My dad actually had a nice opportunity at a really, really nice public lands buck, probably 140 class buck. And
wow.
Public lands, that's a dandy.
That's a monster
for sure.
Public lands, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Unfortunately, something happened in the shot. Clean miss, looked for blood and hair and everything. No, he just got out of there with some does in a hurry. And so we're going to go back to that spot. I picked a tree.
Cool.
And hopefully, I'm hunting for my fiance. So hopefully she can get it done, get her first deer, and I'm really excited for her.
That would be huge.
Yeah.
First deer for being a late season too. I mean, that would be solid, dude.
And a muzzleloader, yeah, that's definitely a trophy. Public land muzzleloader hunt for first deer. I mean, if she can get that done, she can do just about anything.
Talk about a combination. Yeah, you're pretty much golden after that point.
Right. That's like shooting a 200 on an opening day.
Right. That's right. In a low fence too.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about that. We're gonna go rough it for the weekend and hopefully get it done. Then I'm gonna start targeting some meat around my area in that property that I mentioned. I can hunt till February the 3rd.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I'll be hunting a hard muzzleloader. I'm allowed 1 buck, 1 antlerless during muzzleloader out there. If I don't fill a tag personally at the national forest, then I'll have both those tags left over for that area.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's great. And I mean, there's just of course, come after deer season, I know you're going to be going after white bass, crappie, largemouth, that kind of stuff. There's just, in Texas, we don't have ice fishing and that kind of stuff like a lot of the northern states do, but man, do we get it on all year long, man. I mean, that's the thing I love about our state, is that if you're not hunting, you can go fish. If you're not fishing, you can go hunt, And late season is just a fantastic time, especially like you were saying, after deer season's over with, whitetail season's done with, all the way around after February 3rd, you can go target hogs.
Yeah, exactly. It's nonstop all year long, and definitely not passing any hogs if they come across the stand. I was just up in the stand, I guess a week and a half ago, and deer hunting, and man, right at last light. I mean, I'm talking last 3-4 minutes of legal shooting light. It was there's a big boar that came out from my right about 80 yards out of the brush, and he did a big U around me at 80 yards, and he never came in any closer than that. And I'll shoot out to 40 with my bow. That's just where I like to be.
Sure.
And he never quite made it in. And I grabbed the grunt tube out of my backpack and I extended it all the way. I cupped my hand over the end of it to make it even deeper.
Sure.
And I was just trying to mess with him, get him in.
Yeah.
He kept stopping and listening. He kind of his body language kind of seemed interested for a moment. And he'd kind of turn, and then he'd go back to what he was doing. So he ended up just doing a big horseshoe around me and kind of broke my heart, but it's all right.
That's hunting for you, right? I mean,
Yes, sir.
That's just the way it goes sometimes. There's nothing like that, though, that close encounter with nature that gets your blood pumping. Am I right? I mean, that's why I hunt, dude. You know? Man,
that is... I'm trying to explain that rush to somebody that's never done it before.
Yeah, it's not a hunt at all, right?
Yeah, it is very hard to do. You're like, okay, have you ever almost been in a fist fight?
Right.
Take that in times 10.
That's good, dude. I love that.
Yeah, that's the best way I could try and explain it. And I was trying to explain it to my fiance about, going out there. I was like, be ready for this crazy adrenaline dump that's going to happen.
It's an adrenaline dump. That's the best way to explain it too. Yeah.
There's no way to explain it except just be ready for it, take some deep breaths, try and stay calm. And another thing with the muzzleloader that I was just trying to get her ready for before we go shoot it. Before we go, I wanted her to know that when you fire the muzzleloader, just treat it like any other gun and try and keep that animal or whatever your target is in the scope.
Sure.
And not jerk away and try and look. It's especially important with a muzzleloader just because there may be that little bit of delay in that powder actually igniting. That's one thing that's not super consistent. If you buy top notch powder, you might have a little bit more regularity. There's some times, and it depends how dirty your gun is,
right,
and everything else. There may be a little bit of a delay in the ignition of that powder, and when your projectile is actually going down range. So it's really important to just stay calm, stay on your target with the scope, and not flinch and want to peek afterwards. Your shot may not be all the way off yet.
Right. No, that's sound advice, dude. That really is. I'm glad you said that because that is one of another challenge to hunting with the muzzleloader. Is that you have variables like that aren't predictable all the time, that aren't, click bang all the time right away. Sometimes there is a delay. I didn't even think to mention that on this show, but I think it's brilliant that you said that. So
and that's the great thing about smokeless powder, though, right? Isn't it?
That's right. You click
and modern
bang.
Centerfire rifles is right. Like click bang. I love it.
It's pretty much the primer goes off. You're a good. Now I had an opportunity that I was shooting does this last January. I was hunting with my son. I've got this video up on YouTube, and we ended up killing a doe together, but I ended up denting all of the primers in my AR-15 magazine. I probably went through 3 or 4 bullets, centerfire cartridges that did not ignite. They were FTS, failed to fires. And so I would clear the chamber, and the deer would just sit there and wait for me to shoot again. And I started cussing the thing and just saying, you know what, I can't do this anymore. It was because my gun was dirty, because I did not properly strip my AR-15 and clean. And I had my gunsmith, do that because I'm not a pro at AR-15s. But he field stripped and said it was just dirty, dude. That's all there was. It wasn't you or the ammo or anything like that. And sure enough, he was right, man. I went bang every time after that. So but I bring that story up just to showcase the fact that in muzzleloaders you've got to have a clean gun. You've got a good clean gun's a happy gun, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Just like what you were saying earlier, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And on variables, we talked about distance, and another thing that I do bring with me as far as gear is I bring my my rangefinder with me that I used to archery hunt with.
Oh, super.
When I muzzleloader hunt.
Right.
So that's one thing that's definitely in my bag when I muzzleloader hunt, and on my person at all times, as well as my binoculars, is that rangefinder. So I'm for sure that I am comfortable with that distance. And I shot a doe last year in the national forest at 80 yards with a muzzleloader, and she dropped right there. I couldn't have been happier, but I was definitely glad I had that rangefinder, because I really wasn't sure if I was looking at 80 yards, if I was looking at 120 yards.
Right.
Just that kind of barrier there is, you got that 40-yard kind of, I'm not quite sure. There's this brush in the way. There's a bunch of trees blocking, and I got this one little shooting lane. So I'm glad I had the rangefinder to really make sure what I was looking at.
To kind of cover the spread. Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because that's the tool that we use religiously in bow hunting is a rangefinder, or at least develop the skill of depth perception to realize what is at 20 yards and what is at 30 yards. And if you get really good at it, which I used to be, I need to sharpen up that skill again, but you can, just walk down a parking lot and say, okay, that's 50 yards, that's 20 yards, that's, and kind of pick out targets like that. And I forget what the word is for that when you sight distance things like that off the cuff with your rangefinder and go back. I forget what that definition. Do you know what I'm talking about, Trevor?
It may be instinctive ranging.
Instinctive ranging. That's what I mean to say. Yeah, instinctive ranging. But that or pre-ranging, I guess, is the best way I'm going to try to say it. Your tree, your rock, your whatever. It's shooting the laser at that and making sure that you've got that target and what's 20 yards, 30, 35, so on and so forth. But I'm glad I'm not the only one that has issues at distances those longer ways away. Because I feel like sometimes I'm like a big dummy.
Yeah. So, yeah, and especially when I get out to, if you're just playing the guessing game, with a buddy or something, you're saying, how far you think that is?
Right.
Oh, 300 yards, and the other guy's like, oh no, that's 450, 500 easy.
Right.
Oh man, it's hard to tell when you get out real long ranges, unless you have that experience. And for me, it's like looking at acreage. It's like, all right, there's that field. Tell me how many acres that is. It's like, well, I have no reference.
If you have no frame of reference, you're just kind of spitting in the wind. I mean, it's just kind of, and the reason why I say I feel like a dummy sometimes is because I know there are guys that know that better than I do, but I just don't claim to be. That's why I use a tool like a rangefinder, which in 3D archery and in a lot of cases with bow hunting, it's either frowned upon or not used at all because they believe you should have that instinctive range finding, or in the case of 3D archery, that's part of the game, is shooting that target with guessing the range,
Yeah, and for those guys doing a lot of 3D tournaments and stuff like that, I know that those guys are really good at doing that instinctively because, they're doing it all the time. They're going to tournaments and stuff. If I just walked in there, I'd need my crutch for sure. I'd need my crutch, or I'm spending a bunch of money in expensive arrows.
Yeah, and losing arrows and that kind of stuff. And that's the other thing I was going to tell you, Trevor. You're welcome on our 3D archery Hill Country Bow Hunters. We got rained out, would you believe it, of the fun shoot back in September. And we're doing a fun shoot, I think, in February or March. But anyway, hillcountrybowhunters.com, that is our website. And I'm going to probably be elected as an officer this year for the special events coordinator officer position. But the huge opportunity to get your family in the outdoors, man, and just get out there and hustle and teach yourself about archery and be around that culture. It's just it's every month of the off season, and it's just a blast. It's just a lot of fun. I just haven't had the time or made the time the last 2 years to do it much, and I'm really going to get into it this year is my plan.
Oh man, it always looks like a blast, and I've shot 3D indoor stuff a little bit, but never in a tournament or anything like that. But
there's no money in this thing. There's no money in the HCB tournaments, but you get a plaque, But I'm just saying,
never shot competitively at all.
Right.
It's just always 3D targets indoor. Sure. But I'd love to start getting some stuff like that, some outside stuff. I wanted to do it last year as well, but I couldn't find the time. I was kind of obsessed with trying to get some hogs on the ground and in the freezer, and got wrapped up in that.
I just want to invite you, since we both live in the same area. It's Northwest Austin, Seward Junction, Liberty Hill, in west of Georgetown and east of Bertram in Liberty Hill, and it's just a really cool opportunity to get there. And any listeners that frequent the Central Texas area, that's another invite for you guys too, to check this out on their website, and I'll put their website in the show notes. But just wanted to throw that out there while we're recording. It's just one of those things that I think I'm trying to invite as many people as I can to go, because it'll make me go, so because I got to be there for those people, So anyway,
yeah, it'd be weird if you invite all these people and then everybody's like, hey, where's
Where's Dustin at, right? Oh my gosh. Any other thoughts on muzzleloader hunting? We've talked about the challenge, we've talked about the variables, we've talked about the performance of the modern day muzzleloader and how an inline is probably the best solution for safety and all that goes into it. What other thoughts do you have in closing here, Trever?
I just want to say it can be a very affordable way to hunt. If you don't have the money for a nice centerfire rifle, muzzleloaders can be inexpensive and accurate. The CVA Wolf that I'm using right now, they have a scope package that comes with it. I didn't go that route. I upgraded the optics, but the CVA Wolf, a great little gun for not a lot of money. I think it's got to be under $200.
Wow, that's great.
A great inexpensive way to do it. It takes a little bit more effort, to get educated on all this, but CVA is great with their videos and helpful stuff. Sound like I'm sponsored by them, but I promise I'm not. Just really like their products. And so they have a lot of helpful videos that helped me get started doing this. And so anybody can do it that's got, $200 to spare on a firearm. And it opens up a lot more hunting.
And the nice thing about muzzleloaders and that kind of stuff too is that if you don't know, everything in the outdoors pretty much these days is figure outable, if that's even a word. I always say that about technology. It's just one of those things. If you don't know it, you can go watch some YouTube videos on guys that are doing it and doing it well.
Absolutely.
You can watch the CVA sponsored videos or their sponsored shooters doing it and that kind of stuff. And if you have questions, you can call these companies a lot of times and get an answer right away. I'll never forget the one time that I did go back to bow hunting real quick. Grim Reaper, when they started sponsoring me as their pro staff, there would be people that literally would watch my videos and call Grim Reaper and go, what broadhead is that guy using? And they knew because I bought my broadheads through them. But it's one of those things where they actually took the time to pick up the phone and call either me or that company, and that company was there to help them. Dustin's shooting a inch and a half crossbow head or a 2-inch whitetail special compound bow head, and this would probably be the best idea for your bow, or this smaller a diameter would be, or whatever the case may be, or this Sabo would be better for your muzzleloader, or this regular bullet would be, or a load would be better. These power pellets, whatever. The opportunities to learn about that are out there. You just have to go find out.
Absolutely. And there's tons to learn about muzzleloaders. I still don't know everything. I'm relatively new to it, but I know just enough to get me in trouble on something like this podcast.
Well, I wanted to have you on is because I remember you talking about it on y'all's podcast a while back, doing muzzleloader last year. And I was like, what better guy that's kind of into it but doesn't know it all, that speaks from experience, a field experience. And that's what I was really looking for in putting you on. So, and plus, I don't know a ton of other people that hunt with muzzleloaders, so the one thing I wanted to bring back up is your idea with having the speed load pouch. Okay, pouch, is that right? Am I saying that right? Pouch?
Yeah, I think they call it a speed reloader or something like that. Okay. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah,
but basically a pouch.
A speed reloader kit or whatever to have with you. I helped guide a hunter this month last year in 2018 on an elk hunt that I just published on the Texas Fish and Game Facebook page. And he brought one arrow to the hunt. He's 16 years old. He had a lot to learn. And he needed to put another arrow in the elk. We had to go all the way back to the truck. So I said, listen, man, if you're muzzle loading, if you're archering, if you're rifle shooting, whatever the case may be, you're not Jim Shockey, okay? Most people aren't. Don't just bet on one arrow or one bullet or one load to close the deal every time if you're not 100% sure you're going to close the deal. I know I've seen Jim Shockey do that on some of his hunting shows. Is just take one load and that'd be it, And I'm just like, what if something happens,
Yeah. What do they say? Hope for the best and expect the worst.
Expect the worst, exactly, man. That's what we all say in hunting. So, I think being prepared is important, is what I'm trying to get at there.
Absolutely, and I can give you a prime example if we have some time.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
All right. The buck that I shot in October this year. He was at 20 yards, quartering away shot. So I entered the last rib, and when you're a quartering away shot, you're aiming for your exit.
Yes,
so you're aiming for the opposite
exit
side of the animal.
Right.
So, and when my arrow went in right where I wanted it to. I don't know what happened exactly, but through the necropsy, it went in through the liver, so behind the rib, through the liver, hit one lung, blew out the other shoulder. I missed the heart. It angled up a little bit more than I intended. I was trying to go straight in and hit heart. It was a little too quartering away to get double lung on that shot. So he ran off about 30 yards. He bedded down. And so I sat there and wait. I gave him 45 minutes. I thought it was a good shot when I made it. Walked up on him, or I walked up about 20 yards or so. And I saw him get up and bounce off a little bit. And he still looked like he had a little bit of life in him. So I gave him another hour and a half, followed his blood trail, found 2 spots where he had bedded down not too far from the first bed.
Okay.
When I found his last bedding spot, I was looking down at the pool of blood. I mean, it looked good. It's great blood, lots of it. I look up. He's at 10 yards looking straight at me, bedded down.
Man.
So I kind of back up behind some brush, pull another arrow out. Lucky to have that other arrow,
Sure.
right? I had 3 more in the quiver. I have a 4-arrow quiver, and I keep that thing full for stuff like this.
Sure.
You never know when you're going to freak out, miss the first one completely or something like that. Who knows? But luckily, got another arrow. Heart shot him. He got up, ran about 20 yards or so, fell right over. Gave him 5 minutes and went and got him.
Wow.
So you just never know, man. Definitely be prepared. Have more ammunition than you'll think you'll need. Bullets definitely don't weigh a lot, and it's easy to carry them.
And muzzleloader loads, or
muzzleloader loads, and arrows,
your bullets, that kind of stuff. I mean, I just bring this story up. I'll never forget one time when I was with a guy on a ranch in West Central Texas, and I was filming his hunt, and he had shot a spike in the neck, and it dropped right away, but he didn't bring his gun to come and recover it. And it got up and just kind of stumbled away, and I could have gotten it, and put it, dispatched him there, but I couldn't catch him in time, and by that time he was gone. And that taught me that time, always bring your rifle, always bring your muzzleloader, always bring your crossbow or your compound bow, or whatever weapon you're hunting, and have it locked and loaded, have it ready to go in case you need to deliver that fatal shot. So that's just I had that experience this year with a doe that I shot. I did a neck shot, but I spined it, and I was a little bit low, and I didn't hit right in the neck, and I had to go and put another one in it. When I walked up, I couldn't cut its throat or anything like that. As morbid as that sounds, but sometimes you have to do that, especially if you're bow hunting and you can't carry a gun with you. It's just one of those things where it's just sometimes that's hunting for you. That's just life as it happens.
Yeah, no, we absolutely owe it to the animal to make it as quick and painless as possible.
Right.
But sometimes stuff like that does happen in both of these stories, that it's unexpected, and you got to do what you got to do to finish it, and make it a little more ethical.
Right. I mean, and that's what it's all about, and that's the one thing I've always been about on the show is ethics and making that quality, hunt, and also making it a quality memory in the outdoors and everything like that, but also making it as painless and quick and ethical as possible for the animal. So I wanted to definitely bring that up too. So yeah, no, this is good. Do you have any way for people to get a hold of you, Trever?
Yeah, for anybody on Instagram is mainly what I post stuff to. Can look me up. It's at Trever, Trever, CBGC, stands for Cast Blast Grill Chill.
Oh yeah.
That's the podcast I do with my cousin Jeremy, Public Land Podcast. Plenty of content out there. Go check us out on any of the social media platforms at Cast Blast Grill Chill. And if you want to listen to the podcast, go check it out. I also have a podcast myself called Hunt, Fish, Repeat, and you can do the same there. So definitely check those out.
The Cast Blast Grill Chill, I enjoy listening to you guys. It's very conversational. It's very storytelling. It's just a lot. It's kind of like sitting around with you two guys at the campfire and just, shooting the breeze, drinking a cold one, and just enjoying the outdoors. And that's one thing I've liked about y'all. You and Jeremy, whether you know it or not, have caused me to slow down more because I'm go all the time with everything I do in the outdoors, and that's what they call me, the outdoor success guy. But y'all kind of taught me, hey, calm down, just chill out, grill some meat, grill some fish, have some fun, and just enjoy the lifestyle more is what I want to say there.
Oh yeah, I'm glad we could for somebody, because I still don't know if I've calmed down any. And I know Jeremy hasn't, because he's a duck hunter at heart and he just likes to crack jokes all the time. I'm more of a deer hunter, a big game hunter, so I'm a little less talkative, a little more sit in the deer stand type. But yeah.
No, that's good. Well, thanks so much for joining me, Trever. I appreciate you.
Always love being on the show. Thanks, Dustin.
And there he goes, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Trever Bryan, Cast Blast Grill Chill. Great guy, great opportunity to sit down with him and talk. And just wanted to also key you guys in on our newsletter, which comes out 3 times a week. It is free. Actually, you're going to be getting even more newsletters. I just had an editorial meeting last week before this podcast airs with our editorial team, and basically we were there for the Houston Boat Show, and I'll probably have a Houston Boat Show podcast or some kind of coverage on the website with the Houston Boat Show on fishgame.com if you want to go check that out. It was an amazing show. But basically you've got some opportunities of some other email blasts. We're going to be doing some other special newsletters besides our 3 normal ones, and that's the Tactical and Practical Tuesday, which comes out every Tuesday, Wildlife Wednesday, and the Thursday Texas State of the Outdoor Nation. All kinds of wildlife stuff from all over the nation and Texas and beyond, and just some really great opportunities there to plug in and visit our stuff. So thank you guys so much again for watching, reading, and listening. Have an awesome day in the outdoors. We'll see you next time.